I want to acknowledge that I'm speaking to you today from the lands of the Camaragal people of the Eora Nation. I would also like to extend my respect to elders past and present and any First Nations people tuning in today. Sovereignty was never ceded. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in Vancouver, Canada, and these are the unceded grounds of the Musqueam and the Tsleil-Waututh people. So I'm happy to be joining you from these unceded lands.
Thank you so much. Okay, so hi everybody. Today we are once again here to talk about Motherland Fort Salem. Everybody knows it's my favorite topic. Speaking to me today from Vancouver is one of Motherland's most interesting characters. Although spoken about often by her daughter Raelle, we don't get to see much of Willa until the big reveal at the end of season 1. In season 2, we get to know more about her motivations, and ultimately just how deep her love for her daughter goes. I'm so excited, as everybody can probably tell, to be speaking today with the incredible Diana Pavlovska. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on. I know we've tried to get this going for the last couple of weeks, so here we are. Thank you so much for having me. It's a great honor to be here.
Thank you. I'm just so excited. Okay, so for anyone not familiar with the show, would you mind giving us a really quick little bit of information about Willa Collar and how she sort of fits into the Motherland puzzle?
Willa. How does Willa fit in? Well, Willa is the protagonist's Raelle Collar's mother. And so Willa is believed to have been fallen in combat. She is part of the Spree organization. She broke from the army, became Spree, the organization that was fighting against the army, and then broke away from the Spree to become even more rogue because she's always trying to fight to do the right thing in her mind. So Willa's believed to have fallen in combat. She's been orchestrating attacks all over the world to disrupt the military's plans. On the flip side of that, Willa loves her daughter more than everything in the whole world and is the tough as nails, tough person, trying to plot and plan how she can create a safe world for her daughter, and which is the big driving force. Not even death can stop her. So that's who Willa is. Willa's mom, Mama Bear, fighting tiger.
As fans got to know more about Willa, as we saw her more through season 2, I became really fascinated with her psychology, as you can sort of tell from how I'm geeking out already. She clearly wanted to reconnect with Raelle and her family more than anything because she has such really deep love. But she also knows that she missed so much and has no idea how she would reconnect with Raelle. We see that when she's sitting with Scylla on the couch. Could you tell us a little bit about what that was like for Willa and also for you to explore that space?
Yeah. So for Willa, it is, her whole driver was to build a better world for her daughter. That was her whole point. And when, the army wasn't approving of who she was marrying because he's outside of the realm and he's a civilian, the muggle, whatever he's the them and we're the us, that was really the dividing line for her. And so trying to figure out how she could make that world for Raelle, that safe space, played directly against what the army had in mind. So as the army kept deploying her and kept deploying Willa all over the world, she was missing Raelle's life, and she was missing that family time. She's family oriented, family driven. And so she kept sacrificing and sacrificing and sacrificing. And all she wanted to do was be there for her daughter and be there for her daughter and watch her grow up.
Yeah.
So, thinking about what it would be like to create this world and make the ultimate sacrifice of not being there for her and try to do this behind the scene was the safest way that she could figure how to keep her daughter safe. And then deciding to put her in the army because that's who would protect her from the Camarilla. Yeah. So it, there's a tremendous amount of guilt
Yeah.
and sadness on the one hand, and on the other hand, it is not letting that emotion overwhelm what she believes is going to protect her daughter.
Yeah.
So, did it make the situation worse? Did it make it better? Well, that's for the fans to decide.
Yeah.
That's for you to decide what you think about those choices.
Yeah.
But when she sent Scylla on the mission to go get Rael because it just became too dangerous,
Yeah.
and Scylla didn't do that, that was a big defining point for Willa, because she's tough, she's controlling, she knows what she wants, she has a plan, she is army after a while.
Yes,
That's where
yeah.
it started. When that didn't happen, that was a big blow to her on one hand, and on the other hand, it was also a realization that maybe what Scylla did was the best thing for Rael, not bringing her out, keeping her there. So I don't know, the psychology.
Yeah.
It's torn between what you think is the most right, torn between your guilt and what at the end of the day is that step that you believe is going to make the person that is most important to you safe.
Yeah.
And there is no straight answer to any of that.
I think that's the beauty of Motherland though, right? Is that it's everything is gray area. There's no hard good and hard bad. Even when I think about in season 2, how we're introduced to this big bad of the Camarilla, it's they think that they're doing the right thing. So they still sit in this gray space because their motivations are, from their perspective, good, in the same way as the Spree's motivations were good. Just
yeah,
it's very, very interesting. I love thinking about that stuff.
Well, it really it makes you take a step back, and everybody's fighting for what they think is right. And you have the army and the Spree and the Camarilla, and you look at all these different factions, and it really comes back down to the people. It's who is fighting on each side,
Yep.
and really whose values do you end up aligning with?
Yeah.
There's no straight up answer to any of
Exactly. That sort of brings me into my next question of, Willa spent so much time with Scylla in season 2. And watching that relationship between them was so engaging for the fans, because they sort of emerge as two sides of a very similar coin. They're both motivated by anger and pain at the start. Both seeing that there's a bigger problem at play sort of in the middle of their journey, and landing on keeping a certain blonde mushroom infused kid alive. You know what I mean? Did you feel that Willa was sort of taking on a motherly role with Scylla? And also, what was it like working with Amalia? Because you were with her for so much of that filming process.
We were attached at the hip.
Yeah.
we really bonded. So I'll answer your first question, and then I'll talk about the lovely Amalia after. So that did Willa take on that role of mom to Scylla? Yeah, 100%. Scylla was the doorway. Scylla was that intermediary between Rael and Willa. And once Willa accepted that Scylla really does love Rael for real, this was not, she wasn't just going against Willa, this wasn't BS, that she does have Rael's best interest in mind. It's like she could express all the hurt, all the pain. She could allow Scylla to see that part. For Willa, it's very hard to trust anybody. She's single-mindedly focused on that one thing of making Rael safe. So to let Scylla in, to reveal to her how difficult it was, the whole journey has been, how heartbreaking it has been. Willa hasn't been able to share that with anybody. So carrying that burden constantly it's was suffering for Willa.
Yeah.
So I think that Willa got to see Scylla as some sort of, conduit to be able to express and release some of those emotions. And that, and number one, and number two, Scylla's also trying to find her way. Scylla is trying to find her path. And of course, Willa, being that much further down the road, also has sight, some longer vision, some vision of, what's going to be around the next corner.
Yeah.
And so she could help guide Scylla as well into figuring out who she was, who she wanted to be, and how she could be directing and channeling her energy.
Yeah.
So it became a really important relationship for Willa. It was like she could she could be the mother of of all the years that she did miss. Now, working with Amalia, it was so easy because she is so lovely, so engaged. She's so excited about the story and what we get to do together. And we had so many conversations about what their relationship was like, talking through, those, how we feel about it, how those two characters feel about one another at each moment. So we got a shorthand. We connected right away very quickly.
That's great.
And then we got a shorthand into how we could poke and prod each other to, see what else we could find in each other's performances. So we became really close, and so it was nice. It was easy because our characters began to really love and need each other, and Ollie and I, I love working with her. She's a treat. Yeah.
That's great. No, that sounds like and also sounds like a very pleasant thing to have with all of the restrictions going on at the time, to have somebody who was,
well, and that's a good point. Like, we could actually be close with one another, which is, you couldn't be in contact with anybody. So at least to have us be able to connect, that's great. It was really good. And we were just open about, what we needed and how to get more out of each other. It was a very symbiotic relationship when we worked together.
That's so cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Still talking about that relationship with Scylla, in that moment where Willa was, standing in the door to the clean room, looking between her daughter and, her sort of adopted daughter, as the fans sort of a daughter-in-law. What was that moment for Willa? Was it just that like sheer maternal protectiveness, or was there a moment of thinking about Scylla in that as well?
Oh, God, that moment, that was one heck of a day. First and foremost, it's not even a question as to whose life is going to be the one that gets protected and maintained. So Raelle is number one, 100%. So it's Mama Bear, it's instinct, it's the baby under the car and mom lifting the car, it is that story. On the other side of that, there was this moment where, as I'm closing the door, and Amalia and I were talking about this too, as actors, we were looking to find that moment as well, that when I close the door, it's also like I'm saying goodbye to her, because she has become this, this daughter figure to her as well. And she is the mother-in-law figure to that character. And so that moment of leaving her, but knowing that she's on the other side, it is that split second of pain and anguish. And also, you're there, so you need to be there. Like, make sure that you're there, because I need to go save her and I will take her place. So you need to be there, and you need to tell her, you need to be my my ambassador. You need to tell her why I did this. It was brutal.
Yeah, that sounds like a massive day. Like, I would love to just know more about that day, because in that entire facility, that just seemed that there was a lot going on. What was that episode like, just in general, all of that? I'd love to hear the stories.
What was really important to all of us to Shannon and to the amazing writing team and to myself and Amalia and Taylor in all those scenes were to just really create it beat by beat and to make sure that we honored the depth of emotion that a scene like that would take. So as we were, from the mechanics of how we're going to shoot it and what it would look like in post and what the mechanics of, okay, what is it like to have this and all of that, because on the day, who knows what that's actually going to look like. So what is it like to be consumed by this idea of the witch plague? But prior to that, right from the moment of trying to find her, breaking the necks of people who got in her way, turning the dog on the guard, right up until finding her, it was really about making sure that as we told that story, it was authentic, it was a genuine, and that we really honored what that sacrifice actually means. And everybody stepped up to the plate. And then, it's like, all right, the mechanics of now you're dying and there's witch plague. So go, so it was great because we storyboarded what all of that would look like. And so I had a good understanding and they let me into, so much of what we do on this, that green screen acting, it's like, well, so what are we working with? What are we really seeing? And to have the clarity from the production side to tell us that, it's just great because you have that imagination in you're letting that play as part of the scene. Absolutely. So it was, everyone was exhausted.
I can tell.
Okay. And then I know we have a question a little later about the green screen day. I won't go there, but the mechanics of that day was incredible. I got to do the stunt work of, breaking some necks. That was fun.
I think one of my favorite bits is you and Amalia jumping out of the car. It's very Jack in the Box of just being, it's great. That was a very cool stunt that they did.
That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun to do, it's great because you have these powers and they do things and it's nice to watch how all that actually happens in life. And it's not all super special affected. It's just the sound and the voice, I know, which is very cool.
It's so, and I think that adds to like Motherland's authenticity because you're not like, watching someone wave a wand and something come out of it. It's very much, it feels like it's coming from the person.
I love that they use that voice. I love that they use that, bring that authentic piece to life. It was, that's some great writing right there. I like it.
It's absolutely some great writing. You're so right. I've been asked to ask this question. So eagle-eyed fans noticed that in the scene where Scylla and Willa break into the vet's office, Scylla has a tear in her shirt and is like bloody. The thinking is that a scene was cut where Scylla got hurt and Willa healed her. Can you tell me anything about that? Are fans on the right track? What's going on?
Wiring minds want to know. So we had that roof scene where I got to blast the light and we got to, attack the guards, and there was a whole big fight scene there. And what happened is one of the guards, as they're fighting on the ground, before I get to do that, he actually cuts Scylla with a knife. So he cuts her across the belly. And so after I come down off of that roof and I run down, I put my hands on her and I do the whole, healing, ask and it shall be given. I do that whole piece.
Wow.
And so then, she gets back up, heal the cut, and we walk into the vet's office. So for whatever reason, for timing, all of those things. But yes, I was able to have a little healing moment and do
nice
little moment on Scylla that both Raelle and I do. Sneaky, they saw it. That's great. That's
of
great.
course they did. So we all want to see more of Willa. Like, I definitely do. I think everybody does. But as we sort of talked about, her death was that ultimate sacrifice, giving her daughter another chance at life and at love. The pink mycelium space scene, as we were discussing, it's just so beautiful and so heartbreaking. I genuinely can't get through that scene without crying. Taylor's little stay at the end,
Which she
absolutely.
added in. Mhm.
So you filmed that on a massive green screen. I
Yeah.
want to know everything. Tell me everything about that day.
Oh boy. Well, I didn't eat that day. Just,
Yeah.
I have to say the crew that we have is so collaborative and so respectful. Taylor as an actress, Raelle as the character, she went through hell. Those writers put her through hell,
I did.
and in the best way.
Yeah.
What a great meal for an actor.
Yeah.
There was always something that was, after her, or traumatizing her, or something to overcome. And the crew is so kind and so respectful of that. And fast forward to this day, it was a huge day because we both were in such a fragile state because we knew what was coming. We knew the depth that had to be there. And then on the flip side of that, you don't want to just run rampant with over sobbing, because then you can't actually spit out the words and get the scene.
Yes.
So when we came to the green screen, I have to say it was a very quiet, like some days it's a lot more jazzy. It was just a very quiet, they knew what was coming.
Yeah.
So they were so respectful of that. Taylor and I did not want to rehearse this a lot. We didn't not want to go through this a lot. We went very technically on, all right, who's standing where? How is this going to look? What are we doing? Because we both came ready. So we did not want to, we didn't want to blow that before the scene. And Shannon, our director, was wonderful. She had her thoughts for Raelle and the thoughts to me. It was just, make sure she knows how much you love her. Just make sure she knows that. That there is no doubt that all of this came from love. And so when we actually did it, because we're like, oh, this is going to be hard.
Yeah.
And so of course we did it several times, and did her coverage and my coverage. And every time, she's such a consummate actress. She's so professional. She brought it to the table for me every single time for my scenes. I looked to do that for her scenes. And there were takes where I'm sure we couldn't even be understood, because we're trying to get through this scene. We're trying to make this connection, and we're trying not to let the emotions overwhelm the scene. And some takes, it just happened, because it's, this was that big connection for us. This was that first time we really connected. So it was tremendously traumatic. And everywhere we looked, makeup would come, and they're like, okay, I can't look at you. Just close your eyes, because the crew, they all had big tears in their eyes. You can see behind Video Village, they were just like, oh my God. So, it was, everybody was there for us. You could just feel the support in the room. And it was like, you could hear a pin drop in between takes. People were just whispering because they really wanted to just let us be in that space together. So it was painful. By the end, we literally, I think we just hugged for a minute, and people didn't move. They just stopped, and we were just like for a minute, and then we're like, okay, now we're not supposed to hug. It's COVID, so don't tell anyone. But we're like, okay, we can go about life now. She has this capability to bring this authentic emotion and create the connection every single time, like every single take. She's there. It's more, can we turn down the dial enough so that we can actually
Yeah.
other words. She makes it so easy. Like I just had to look at her and be like, oh my God, it's you. I get to be with you. We had that together. So it was
That's amazing.
brutal. And it didn't even matter where we were. We could have been on a green screen. We could have been on a real set. We could have been, it didn't matter. The connection was so strong between us.
Everybody is looking at the connection between you two. It is so intense and so beautifully performed. Probably one of my favorite scenes that I've ever seen on television, because it is so incredibly emotional, like so heightened, and it makes sense that you guys couldn't get through it.
Well, and to your point, what if you get a chance to say something, what would you say? If you get that chance to actually have that connection. And that's where the writing just lent itself to that idea of we don't have time, but this is, if I had one thing that I got that second chance to say to you, this is what it would be.
Wow.
And it's just like, just that thought, is absolutely gut wrenching. And that's really, that was my driver. It's like, I have this chance to say something. So this is what I want to tell you about my love for you. Yeah.
It's just such an incredible
So it was well
scene.
written. Let me say, as hard as it was to do, it was so easy to do because it was so well written. We at the read through, when we did the read through, because of course COVID, all the read throughs are on Zoom. When we did the read through, we were like, just like this is a read through, and you always try to give it a little salt and pepper to read through, but we were like, oh my God, how are we gonna get through this day? Like it was already just, I just have to look at her little face and those beautiful blues, and it melts my heart.
As you've said, working with Taylor, you only share the screen with her a few times. Your chemistry is insane. Like it feels like a very familiar connection between you. You obviously enjoy working with her. So how was it doing the other scenes that you did with her?
Let me put it this way. When you think of any relationship and that one that you wish you could have tweaked a little bit more, or, that friend that you maybe had a long time ago, that if it just been a little bit different. And so when I think about the relationship with her, even back to the first season when she's on the plane and she reads the letter that I wrote her, and I get to appear and actually tell her the letter, those kinds of things. The scenes that I get to do with her cut to the chase so quickly. Those scenes are about the things that I want to say, I wish I could say, and that I do get to say, so it's those moments that it's that every time we meet, I get to say what I wish I could say. And that's where the writing of those scenes, it makes it so easy, because we're not trying to find what we would say to each other. I know what I want to say to her. I'm just so desperate to be able to say it finally and have those chances to do so. And so, that's why for me, that relationship is such a fulfilling one, and getting to have those scenes with her are so fulfilling because I get to say what I want to say. Then there's that nightmare scene where, I cut her open. And that was so much fun to do. That was a lot of fun to do. That was a really fun day. We got, doing that whole gag. And then I get to tell her the story, of who we are and what we are and how we started. And again, it's that I have 5 minutes with you. How am I going to maximize this time with you? And so it's always thinking, how they say, live every day like it's your last, that kind of idea. Well, every time I talk to her, it's the last time I get to talk to her. So I need to spit it out. So it was really easy that way, because we connect, we got to connect so quickly. And everything that I tell her has a direct impact on what her next step might be, or what her next understanding is, or figuring out what her power is, or the depth of her power, what is strong, the strength that she has. And Willa's big driver is making sure that she understands how powerful she is and understands her strength. Yeah. So so getting to do that with her is great, because it's like, I have 5 minutes. Let's make the most of this moment. I have 2 minutes. Let me tell you our whole origin story. And then, let me slice your neck just for shits and giggles.
Throw your dad into a wall.
Yeah, exactly. Because, why not? So yeah, that's why I believe that relationship is so strong. And both of us both felt that every time we got to work together. It's almost like, when you see somebody passing by and it's like, hey, how are you? And you have those like 2 minutes to catch up. That's literally how we felt every time we saw each other. It's like, oh my God, we talk about each other so much and we never get to see each other. So that's what we do, is we talk about one another. So it's nice to have, get to fulfill that a little bit.
Taylor has mentioned in the past that you were sort of the middle point between her and Amalia for a lot of the season, because they didn't get to share very much screen time. How was that for you? So like, you got to know both of these young actresses and their characters who have these established relationships, and you were sort of getting to know about them from both sides.
Yeah, so it's interesting because with Scylla, we got to grow that together, spend a lot more time together. As actors, we got to spend time together and get to know one another. And that was really mirroring what was happening on set. And because of restrictions, and having to be separated every time I was with Taylor, it's like I was saying, it's like that, you're like gasping for air because you want to make that connection. And I think that lent itself to the characters, because it was that same feeling that we have this time, let's use it. And with Scylla, it was much more exploring, can we trust each other, and what is this going to look like, and can she really help, and figuring out what drives her and motivates her, and and again, does she really love Raelle? Is this coming from a truthful, authentic place? And so I think that as actors, that was really mirrored, because I got to spend so much time with Amalia. We really got to know who we were and who we were in this, in this world together and as actors, and then who these characters were together. Taylor and I did not have a lot of time to talk about our relationship, which I think worked. Absolutely. Because it's that, who are we to one another? Like Willa has an idea of who Raelle is and is watching her, but when they actually get to connect, it's, what does that connection look like? And so I think having that, not really having a lot of time to spend with one another, actually it kind of mirrored what was going on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So life imitated art, and I think this is one of those places where because of the entire environment, that actually lent itself to how we were able to develop those relationships on camera.
That absolutely makes sense. Are there any sort of funny or interesting behind the scenes things that you can remember from season 2 and that you would be happy to share with the fans?
Oh gosh, so many. So the scene where I had to do that high-pitched scream so that I could turn the dog on the guard, so that I could go and find Raelle in the clean room eventually. So the wonderful vocal coach and we were talking about what this sound would sound like, because, as you and I chatted about a little bit ago, trying to find how that power manifests in each character and what that sounds like, and, how that is part of you. Well, we had to figure out where my pitch was and what that would sound like. And when Willa does something like that, what does that actually sound like? So we found it. And when we were shooting that scene, I told people this was going to be loud, and we were in the parking garage. So where we came out of the van and the dude and he goes flying. Well, it was that same parking garage. And so thankfully they didn't have the dog there. The dog was shot separately, because even I think I would have blown the dog's ears. So so we had everybody there in the parking garage, and because it was a big parking garage, we could have, there was all the appropriate crew there.
Yeah.
But because we weren't in a tiny enclosed space, lots of restrictions about who could be in the smaller spaces, and we could have a few more people there. And I don't think they were prepared for how loud it actually was, because I did a practice run for the producer, the executive producer. And he's like, oh yeah, I think that's going to sound good. I'm like, yeah, let's just wait for it on the day. Literally after I did the first one, they stopped, dropped, and started to hand out earplugs. Like, all right, and let's go and hand out earplugs. So earplugs had a good investment day that day.
Wow.
I blew their eardrums off. Yeah.
Oh, that's
and they
so
said,
funny.
and they're like, we're going to wash it through and we're going to add some sound to it. But they were literally, when I did that, they were like, oh my God, I was not expecting that. So that was fun and unexpected.
Yeah. Because was it like reverberating through the garage?
Like the high, I don't know, you practice, and then when the camera's rolling, there's that extra spice that comes to life.
Yeah.
I don't know what extra spice I ate just before I did it, but rehearsal to camera rolling, I ended up ratcheting it up a notch.
That's amazing.
If anybody is a little more having a little trouble with their hearing after that, that would be on me.
Okay, gotcha. I am so interested. When I spoke to Arlen, we spoke at length about Nicta's vocal range, how it's like really low.
Yeah.
Like I knew that the sound had come from you, as it comes from everybody. I had no idea that it was that high.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It was that high. It's like this, like I found this note and I let it rip.
Wow. That's so cool.
And also we were thinking like dog.
Yeah. Like a dog whistle.
What dog whistle?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was when I was working with a vocal coach. It's like, so what does that sound like?
Yeah.
And I found a new whistle on the day.
So I've also asked a few people this now, but if you could create your own piece of work, what would it be? So when I spoke to Taylor, she had the idea for like a Bewitched style getting me ready spell, which very funny. Arlen landed on something that would give people the desire to recognize and respect others. So there's a spectrum there. You can go.
Well, I got a COVID puppy, and so my puppy has an Instagram account, and so when I I think I would like, so look, we have a good connection. We're good at understanding. I'm pretty good at understanding, but I would love some sort of like special little, hey, hi, this is Zorro.
Hi, Zorro. Oh my goodness. Oh, he's beautiful. What a sweet guy.
I would love, he's got this cool little crop top. His
Nice.
little top.
So cute.
I would love some sort of special ability to be able to, some sort of special power to be able to understand him even more.
Yes, absolutely. He's so sweet.
That's what I would like. I would like the ability to be able to understand you. I want to know your language and what you think and what he dreams about. I would love to understand his little dream state.
Yeah.
I can see when he's chasing things. I can see when he's just a little guy.
He's so small.
He's tiny. I can see that, but I would love to have that communication with animals. I think that would be very cool.
That'd be awesome.
Be a very cool power to be able to just know and understand.
I love that. I want that too. I want to be able to know when my cat's about to be naughty so I can intercept it.
Yeah, and he's a COVID puppy, right? So he's like around us a lot.
Yeah.
So like I want him to know that we're always going to come back. So if I could communicate, if you could get that, that would be great. I would like that.
That would
So
be
it's all
amazing.
dog related. I don't know.
That's awesome. What's your dog's Instagram?
His name is Kung Fu Zorro because when we got him, Kung Fu class was still happening. And so he, as a puppy, came to Kung Fu class. Well, we were still allowed to do it outside, and then it got shut down. So
That's so cute.
We do a little Kung Fu on the side just for fun. So we named it Kung Fu Zorro because that was his first experience in life.
That's amazing. I am going to follow immediately after this interview.
Fair warning though, I kind of suck at it. I'm getting better.
It's all good. Going back towards slightly more serious questions.
Sure. Yep.
Strong divert. So how does it feel for you to be a part of a show that has such quality, diverse representation for a whole myriad of communities? Willa is such an amazing role model for young women, proving that they're allowed to be nurturing and empathetic while still being incredibly strong. She's proof that having emotions and being caring is the opposite of a weakness.
Well, I want to say normal because it's as it should be. I also recognized, having been in this industry for a year or two, it has been such a journey to be able to be in this space. We talk about anything, and we talk about an athlete and then a female athlete, or or we start qualifying everything. And it's and there's the one, and then there's everything else. And so being part of this world where everything and everyone and the inclusivity and the diversity is just part of it, it feels like it's the way it should be. It feels normal. It's like, it's, how your brain kind of splits. I'm like, this is incredible. And then the other side of is well, yeah. And this is and this is the way it is. And this is the way it should be. And so and then I take a step back and go, God, this is wonderful. Getting to play this character, like you said, having strength, having emotion, being able to be in an environment where her daughter being in love with another woman is a normal thing. In that world, in the world of Motherland, it's how it should be.
When you look at Motherland, it stands as this in a lot of ways. There are points where Motherland could push farther in ways that every show could push further. We would love to see, M's pronouns used properly, and we would love to see, representation for disabled communities. But where Motherland has gotten to is already strides beyond where so many shows go to. In that way, you do want to look at Motherland and be like, yeah, this is correct. Well done. It's almost like the bare minimum, because you're like
this should be ground zero. And
exactly.
That's what I want to say. It's let's go from here. When I started off in this industry, one of the things that I did was I was a reader for a lot of the casting directors.
Okay.
And it's interesting because I would see how in casting, I would see how many characters were written, how many, were one predominant gender, and where casting would always look to switch these things up. And it fell so much on casting to do that. I would often be brought in for roles that were like Jim or Bob, and and it's like, Oh, interesting. So
Yeah.
you're trying to move that dial and trying to swing that pendulum over and trying to, inch it over. So let me say very clearly, I understand how far we've come. And
Yeah.
like you're saying, this is like, let's go from here.
Yeah.
Let's move that dial. Where it's come from this is so nice to be a part of this, where it's so different from where it started.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I'm grateful that the representation is there.
So I know that you don't really do social media aside from now your dog Instagram, which I am so excited about. Um, but the fans have been so active on social media in their campaign to save the show. They delivered over 300 balloons to Hulu, to their offices. They have been organizing billboards that are going to start, I think, next week in New York. They're running watch parties on Twitter every Saturday, rewatching the entire 2 seasons, and just generally making so much noise, getting the hashtags trending. So do you have any messages to send to them, something to help them keep fighting and keep pushing to get the show a season 4?
That's well, that's lovely. And I, make sure that you're spending your money on important things in your personal life.
Taylor said the exact same thing, but the
Oh.
thing is that the show is so important to so many people. Like I've been reading on Twitter people saying, the show saved my life, parts of elements of the story I've never seen before. I've never seen myself in this way. So it's given people this incredible urge to keep the show going because they want to keep seeing themselves in their stories. And the cast that they love so much and who give so much love back to the fans, it's such a beautiful community. And I think people they're going to keep fighting for it. So that's why they are so readily happy to donate money to these incredible things that different fan groups are organizing.
Well, look, you're the reason, fans, that that the show is receiving the kind of love that it is receiving. So, what can I say to you? Look, make sure that fans, that you go and to take a step back and actually make this show applicable. Take it back and do what you can in your communities to make sure that you're bringing the scope and the depth and the diversity and the inclusion that the show is beginning to, represent within your communities, and continue to create that for those around you. Make sure that you tell those that you love that you actually love them, and make sure that you go and reach out to those people who are most important to you, because that is that's what this journey has been about, is getting to say the things that you never did get to say. So make sure that you're saying them. And thank you for bringing that recognition and that love to the idea that the show is looking to bring, which is, fighting for what we believe in, creating a diverse and inclusive space. Do that for you, and do that for your communities. And that, regardless of what happens with the show, I think that's you bringing that, you living that is really what is going to make the show live beyond whatever happens with us, now and going into the future. And go hug that one you love. Go hug that person that you got. Go tell somebody that you haven't told for a while.
Yeah.
No, I'm not heavy into social media, but I have felt the love and felt the generosity, and it's been wonderful. And this whole community of Motherland has been it really is a community. That's been one of the nicest things, from the crew to the cast to production to the whole executive team. It really has been a sense of community, and I think that's been the true treasure of this show, is the community that's been created out of it.
That's gorgeous. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on the fan level. Everyone go hug somebody. That seems like the best takeaway we can do.
Go hug somebody,
Just
please.
go hug
do
somebody,
it.
guys.
Yeah, really, really.
Okay, so we've come to the end of the questions. I would love to play a really quick game with you if you're happy with that.
Okay, I'm nervous. Oh my God.
It's all
I'm
good.
scared now.
So
Okay.
what we're going to do, because we see Willa cooking a lot, it seems like one of her love languages is to cook for people that she loves. And I thought it would be fun for you to make up the character's signature meals.
Oh my God. Okay. Okay.
So I'm going to give you a character and you tell me what you think their signature meal is, whether they, whether they're a good cook, whether they have ramen energy, what you think they're giving.
I'm terrified. Okay.
Okay, so I can't tell if this is starting easy or starting hard.
I'm terrified. All right, go for it.
If I give you Abigail.
Abigail would be I think Abigail would know how to make let's see, am I gonna get in trouble for what I say? How widespread is this going? Let's see.
Nobody will see it. No one will see it.
No, this part's gonna be cut out, right? Okay. Well, look, I'm going to draw on the refinement that somehow Abigail brings.
Yep.
I believe that Abigail would understand how to make a souffle.
I think so. There's
some sort of in what she brings. I don't know. There's some sort of elegance. That's how I think about. Yes, she's kick-ass and all of this, but there's like this elegance about her.
Okay.
So that's where, and who can make a souffle? Nobody. You need magic to be able to do that.
You're so right. I 1000% agree. Okay. Alder.
Oh, Alder would make wild boar. She would like have boar over a spit.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh God. There goes any chance of ever repairing any relationships with anybody. Okay, keep going.
Someone get Lynn on the phone. Okay, Nikta.
Oh, Nikta. Ooh, that's a tough one. One time I was served crocodile. And I think that would be Nikta's signature.
Okay.
I couldn't eat it, but I think that would be Nikta's signature dish. Crocodile stew.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, right? Totally.
Tally?
Oh, Tally would make like the best shepherd's pie.
Something really warm. It's like a hugging bowl.
Yep.
I love that. Part of me also thinks that Tally might be completely hopeless in a kitchen and she might make some really good 2-minute noodles. You know what I mean?
Well, look, isn't shepherd's pie just like opening some cans
true.
And then like, I don't know. I'm not a great cook.
There's only 2 more. What do you think Scylla would cook?
Oh, Amalia and I were notorious for okay. Okay, Amalia would have like cheesecake, but really interesting flavors.
Oh,
like
okay.
Pistachio kind of cheesecake.
Wow. Okay, nice.
Because we were kind of notorious for like sneaking over to Crafty and figuring out what kind of special scones or bagels they were bringing in that day, and we would like always try the wild tasting things. But Scylla, I think, cheesecake.
Yep. Last one, who also gives me terrible in the kitchen energy, is Raelle.
Yeah, I get that too. I see something like you see, for her, that's where I would see the noodle dish. This is where I would do, like, I would see the warm cup of like ramen noodles.
Yeah.
That's where I would see that.
Okay. And probably an obvious question, but what do you think Willa's is?
Mushroom soup.
Yeah.
Mushroom soup. I think Willa is like Instapot. It would be
Yep.
some kind of mix of everything. Like, I don't know what is that called?
Like a slow cooker type thing.
Yeah, like a
Yep.
slow cooker with that, infused with mushrooms and infused with some kind of truffle oil and that kind of thing,
Yeah.
nice warm chickeny kind of thing. That's what I see Willa as.
Yeah. Very, that definitely has like mum energy of like,
Yeah,
here's the food, eat it.
exactly. Come around the table.
This has been an absolute treat. Thank you so much.
I thank you, for bringing me on, and Willa for her moments in this series. Thank you for, bringing me on and exploring this, and for doing what you do and looking to continue to expand the community and expand the representation, and making sure that we continue to build that inclusive environment, and you're pivotal in that. So thank you for including me in what you do. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. All the best of luck filming. Keep being amazing because you're just so cool. If we do see Willa in season 3, there's no ifs, but I would love to speak to you again post season 3 if you would like to.
Happy to.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. Everybody watching, please make sure you stream Motherland Fort Salem on Hulu in the US, Disney Plus in Australia and in Canada, Star Now in Latin America, and Prime Video in the UK. There are others. Please check your local listings for it because I can't remember all of them off the top of my head. Again, Diana, thank you so much. Have
My
just
pleasure.
the loveliest day.
Thank you. You too. And thank you to all who are watching. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Stay safe. Stay well.